so Kris and I didn't actually previously know each other, and we sort of like started the thing. So basically, what we both did at similar times was download an app called Vampire, which is famously titled dating app for musicians, because it's got the whole swipe right, swipe left interface.
It's literally like Tinder. Liam, on the way over to yours, I text my wife the address. I was like, I might not come back from this guy's house. I don't know who he is. Like, if I'm not back in 3 hours, call the cops. I've been had, sort of thing. But I'm sort of in a new position in the band, and I joined the band as a guitarist, or joined up with Liam as a guitarist. Was never supposed to kind of be a singer or a songwriter within the band. That wasn't my role, and just because of the difficulties that we had in recruiting the right people, we kind of got to a point where we had these bunch of songs that were 90% written, and we just like, someone's got to do it. Who's the least worst singer, sort of thing. So I kind of started doing that. So singing is like brand new.
Just had bugs in it that were like kind of very persistent, so it's not really selling it to me to then start paying for it. You know?
Yeah, true.
But yeah, it is good for the most part. But how are you guys? Thank you so much for joining us and coming on to Homebrewed. This is another chat. We've had a few of these actually in the last couple of weeks that we have been trying to. We've been back and forthing for some time, and now we're finally here. So we've got Kris and Liam from ADORER, a band from Sydney who we would have played towards the end of our illustrious careers on live radio before we made the podcasting transition. Who I've really personally was a really, really big fan of from the first time I heard you guys. So it's great to be able to chat and catch up and hear about what you're all about. So welcome to Homebrewed, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Delighted to be on, man.
Can I just, before we jump any further, Liam, I'm appreciating the literal sock over the microphone as a pop filter.
I didn't even notice.
Do not have a pop filter, so yeah, got the sock, just DIYing it.
Fuck, I'm just over here popping all over this mic.
Yeah. Amateur musicians, you got to figure out how to just...
It's perfectly epitomizing Homebrewed, I think, right there. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Let me just say that, Liam, in 20 years, there'll be 21-year-olds paying $300 for a sock-looking pop filter that goes on their microphones, and you can say you were the architect of that trend.
Oh, absolutely. It's like
There might be a merch opportunity
aesthetic.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you guys be the first band, ADORER, to have branded sock pop filters? It's a very niche area of the merch industry.
It's already a money pit trying to do this band. Never mind sinking more cash into daft ideas like that.
Hey, it's untapped territory. It's a gold mine.
Yeah, you're true.
Yeah.
World's built from dreamers, but no, it is so good to have you guys in it. And I suppose we'll start at the start to use a cliche that we never ever do here on Homebrewed. But you guys, from what I can gather, based on some online sleuthing, have only been around since last year, and it's certainly haven't been on our radar for too much longer than that. Your first show was September 2023. You're from Sydney. So tell us about how you guys came about, because we'll get to it, but you're already an EP in with a very, very assured sound. You clearly are a band that, without having to be around for very long, knew exactly what you wanted to make, and you've gone and made it within a pretty short time frame as far as making music and making art go. So would love to hear about how you got together and then also what's gone into it, because obviously you have a very refined product already.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess we were sort of like a post-COVID sort of band in that sense. Like, so Kris and I didn't actually previously know each other, and we sort of like started the thing. So basically what we both did at similar times was download an app called Vampire, which is famously titled dating app for musicians, because it's got the whole swipe right, swipe left interface.
It's literally like
so. Yeah, so it was like a mid 2022, right as like I guess the restrictions were starting to go away. So I had it for like a bit. I think I downloaded it like May, and then Kris, you reached out to me maybe like July. And
You
then
were
we
my, you were my
started.
first and only message on Vampire.
Yeah, but the thing was, like, I had other people reach out, but they either lived really far and it wasn't like similar tastes at all. So the fact that someone lived close and had similar taste just seemed like such like a miracle. So
It's just like
so
Tinder. It really is.
We were lucky, man. Like we knew that as well when we got together. We were like, oh fuck, like we've got something here. Like we're gelling really easily. Appreciated a lot of the same influences. So it didn't take long to start writing songs, but it did take long to actually recruit the rest of the band. That actually has probably been the hardest thing.
Oh yeah, like just getting this lineup that we have now, which is like the ADORER lineup, which I can't imagine changing at all. It'd be a different band because we're a very collaborative band. That's only been, as you've investigated pretty well, was 2023. But yeah, we went through like other people and sort of grafted, trying to figure out the sounds for like a really long time, trying to be consistent like once a week and even maybe twice a week coming together, trying to just figure out how to sort of do music again with people. So yeah, it was a bit of a graft. So yeah, now we're sort of here as like a band, but yeah, it took a lot of work to just even figure out a sound first and foremost. Yeah.
I think once we landed on the sound and the style, we really went for it, like from a kind of writing perspective. And that happened in loads of different ways. Some of it would be like Liam had a guitar riff, or I would have something, or we'd be in the room together with the band, and you know, Otis, our drummer, would start grooving something, and they all kind of came out of different places, which is kind of cool. And I don't know if that necessarily comes across on the EP, but I think in the more recent songs that we've written after the EP, it definitely feels like a more collaborative sort of thing, which is also great.
It's really interesting to hear that you guys didn't necessarily know, well, you didn't know each other when you first kind of came across one another. How was that process as musicians? Because obviously creating music and art is a very personal thing, and for a lot of people it's done through networks that already exist, although we do hear a lot about people who met friends of friends through the scene or whatever. But to put yourself out there and also to, I suppose, commit to embarking on some kind of creative process with a stranger based off of an app that's like a dating app. What was that like as musicians to kind of take that plunge? Was it easier because it was post-COVID and you were just chasing, you know, anything different, or was it still quite difficult to kind of make that happen?
I think I was shitting myself. Liam, on the way over to yours, I texted my wife the address. I was like, I might not come back from this guy's house. I don't know who he is. Like, if I'm not back in 3 hours, call the cops. I've been had, sort of thing.
I hope you weren't judging the photos.
No, I wasn't the photos.
There's a murderer. He looked a bit evil. Not sure about this guy.
But yeah, I was bricking it, man. I hadn't played guitar for like 5-6 years at that point. In fact, at all since I'd been in Australia. So I was really nervous when I got to Liam's, and then Liam is an absolute weapon on guitar, so that made me even more nervous. But I think because we gelled as quickly as we did, I've still got some of the original recordings from that very first meet. And even in that, there's something, you know, and that was maybe like a little like post-rock sort of thing we were vibing, I don't know, but yeah, it was definitely scary, but I think being so comfortable with each other musically made it a lot easier.
I really do love the parallels. And I just want to know, like your profile pictures, you joked about, did you judge my pictures? Is it similar to, you know, like the classic man holding a fish, like you're holding your guitar, like look how expensive and good my guitar is, come play with me? Like, does that play into it at all?
I think, is it even still a thing, Vampire? It must be.
Yeah, I still have it and have people reach out, but I should probably delete it because I don't need it anymore.
I feel like you've just admitted
You
that you're
cheated.
cheating on us.
Band, yeah. I've got something on the side, a few people lined up.
And so then obviously you said about assembling the band, which you said, you know, took a little bit of trial and error in finding that process. And what you've landed on is very collaborative, as you said. So was that kind of also the intention from the outset? It's not you both, Kris and Liam, that are kind of writing everything. It sounds like it's very much involved, not just a touring or playing live band, it's a recording band and even writing band as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like pretty much as you'd want like a pretty, like I guess, functioning band to be, where recording and playing sort of is even. So, and I don't know, I guess like down to the sort of intricacies of music, like everything's pretty important for like a rock band of our style. Like, so the drums has a lot of the dynamic information. If the drummer's not sort of, if the drummer or the rhythm section isn't pulling their weight, then everything sort of falls. And if the guitarist isn't pulling their weight, everything else falls as well. Like it's sort of like a balanced sort of rock act, like our one. So yeah, everyone's role is like of equal importance.
For sure. And we're all, the good thing is that we're really open with each other, so we're not scared to say and be told if something's not working or we don't like something. You know, we'll keep working on things until it feels right for everybody. And having that open communication in the room whilst we're doing that is really important.
And the band name ADORER as well, was that a collaborative process, or was that one person like, this is my brainchild, I've always wanted to call the band ADORER? How did that come about?
Okay, that was such a process getting to this name. So, first off, band names are so hard these days because the way with the online distribution, if it isn't unique at all, you're going to start coming up on playlists on YouTube with other bands that share the same name and people will get confused. So we pretty much, the main criteria was obviously for the band name not to be completely out there and just sort of rubbishy, but like ADORER, no one had taken this particular spelling of like adore with R on the end. So a lot of people have taken like ADORA, which kind of would be more preferable, I guess. But we really just went with this one because we found it sounds kind of nice. And yeah, no one else has taken it on Spotify. We're the only ones with that spelling, that name. So we're pretty much set. Although I will say, I think there's that platform Deezer or something. Someone else in like South America has a sort of Latin band sort of going on with the same name. So their image comes up there instead of ours. But yeah, other than that, that was the main criteria.
We were originally called Blush, and when we started to look at distribution and different competing names on all of the streaming platforms, we realised there was like 100,000 bands called Blush. And so it was like a last minute change. We just firing names into the WhatsApp group, just trying our very best to find something.
I'm sure there's a band forming today called Blush. There's so many. Like every day there'll be like a new Blush.
We should set a counter up on our website that way people can register when they start a band name Blush. It's just another one. Days since band name Blush started.
Yeah, here we go.
And it sounds so similar to Rush as well, which is potentially another issue as well. But you kept in, Blush, ADORER. It's sort of that, I guess a lovey, cutesy type name. You stayed within that realm as well, which is nice.
That's true, and I think it suits the scene and the kind of genre of the band. I don't know, it kind of works. Maybe we just associate it now with the sound, and it feels like it fits really well.
Yeah,
maybe it didn't at first.
We did have someone actually think it was called ADORER as a homage to Smashing Pumpkins because I have the Adore album. I read online somewhere. Yeah, someone commented that. So I guess I'm all for that. So yeah,
it's in the eye and the ears of the beholder, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
How they want to interpret that. In terms of your sound as well, it's shoegaze, and I suppose for those out there who might not be familiar with shoegaze, it's literally in the name. That's why that genre came to be. But there's obviously a lot more to it. It's really lush. It's ethereal, I think is how you described it yourself. But I also picked up a lot of elements of maybe hardcore, emo, grunge in there as well. And you meld those in a way, I mean, particularly with some of your drumming and guitar riffs, I think that is really, really interesting. So first of all, I am interested in shoegaze in 2024 because it does seem to be making a bit of a comeback. And Kris, when we spoke last week, I think you said that it was very much a TikTok thing, which I found interesting because I'm not on TikTok, but that shoegaze is having a moment there is really interesting. But how do you see the scene, the sound in 2024, and then I suppose your place in it within an Australian context?
Great question. The TikTok thing, it's definitely helped. There's been some bands that have blown up on TikTok who are squarely in the shoegaze genre. Artists like Wisp, for example, would be the kind of big success story. It's great music, but it come off the back of a short video on TikTok or whatever, or certainly that was where it blew up. So I think that's helped. There's like a sort of nostalgic feel to the music, I think, like very 90s inspired. And I think there's a lot of nostalgia happening broadly in the music industry. Lots of bands coming back, after 20 or 15 years, and they're doing really well. So maybe there's something in that more broadly. As for where we sit in the scene, we've sort of connected with some bands who we really love. Bands like Future Heaven, bands like Pit. We played with Trillion a few weeks ago, who've been around for a long time. And they're all great, but they're all different. So I don't think there's necessarily a huge scene for it here yet. Maybe it will emerge, and if it does, that's great, because we can ride that wave, I suppose. But it may not happen,
Well, that was my initial thought, because there's a lot of the bands that they're similar to your sound. When I look through my own library, are all from overseas, and that's not to say they're not in Australia, because there's often so much untapped stuff that you just can't find or don't find. But again, it's a unique sound, I suppose, within our context. But of course, it lends itself across, so you could fit in on bills with bands from a range of different genres and not feel or look or sound out of place.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's, like you mentioned before, there's hints of grunge and there's emo influences in there. So it's it's not a million miles away from some of those more prominent scenes. And I think we've sort of done that by design, Liam, in that we've tried really hard to craft songs that are memorable and have got more of a kind of classic pop song structure, I suppose, just to make sure that there's actually something for the listener to hold on to and to tune into, if that makes sense. Because a lot of the scene, like deep shoegaze stuff, can be really ambient's not the right
Just
word. Textural, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's some bands that really dive deeply into just having the guitar just wailing through the whole mix, where you can hardly hear any drums or anything that's dynamic, and it's just, one ethereal sort of soundscape. Like some of the American bands like Love Lies Crushing does that. My Bloody Valentine, which is a big name, sort of does that, where it's just all guitars at the front, drums and vocals at the back sort of thing. But yeah, I feel like our rhythm section will really like the fact that you brought up the hardcore and sort of more rocky, grungy sort of influences, because they're very into the sort of harder sort of music. I'm a heavy music fan myself at times. I went to Knotfest last year, I think. So yeah, I'm a bit of a metalhead, and Henry's favorite band is Pantera, which we need to mention.
I'm curious about, because you guys are obviously in Sydney, which is almost, it's a big, there's a mixture of sort of all genres within the city, and obviously because there's more people, more population, there's a more chance for those sorts of things to shine. Where we are on the Central Coast, it's a little bit more almost, indie rock is sort of the main genre up here, but if you're into pop or country, you sort of need to find your way up into Newcastle or down to Sydney. But hearing you guys still also, I guess, feeling a little bit isolated in your shoegaze genre down there in Sydney as well. I'm just curious what your experiences have been. Obviously, you said there's more happening in TikTok, but in terms of bands in and around, you're still feeling somewhat isolated?
To a degree.
We're slowly finding our sort of pocket. So the lineup we have for an upcoming show is us headlining with Pit and Future Heaven. And that's a perfect sort of pocket that we've found. And it's a perfect sort of, people are it's sort of in the same vein, but different enough. So Pit are more of a metallic sort of Deftones-y, Loathe sort of vibe, very heavy guitar breakdowns, sort of detuned guitars, and then the drums have the sort of particular sort of drum sounds that I guess metal music tends to have, that's a bit different from everything else. And then Future Heaven are a bit more of a dream pop sort of band, and then there's us, we're a bit more, I guess as you said, we get a bit more of the grunge sort of style and a bit more post-rock. So yeah, there's definitely a pocket that we've found. We've also been in previous lineups with bands like Greenwood, which are a bit more of an alt, more of the Run for Cover label, more basement style, the American style of that sort of alternative rock, where there's a bit more of a shoegaze influence as well. But yeah, there have been times where we've been on lineups where maybe we have felt a bit out of place, and we played a gig where someone flat out just had their fingers in their ears, just shaking their heads.
That's just such an asshole move, man. That's so,
Yeah.
that's so like, do you feel like throwing your guitar at them? When people do, like, it's just one of those things, you don't have to do that. You can just quietly not enjoy the music
Yeah,
or
that's a
not
protest, isn't it?
vibe with it.
The
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
though
it
was,
is.
the thing was, it was almost unconscious. They weren't actually focusing. They were talking to someone, and I just like stepped on it was like a part of Burial, which is where there's like basically every pedal's on, like the wah pedal, distortion, reverb, delay, and it is a lot of like noise and a lot of high end. And the person just like jolted. They were just like so taken aback by how loud it just suddenly got, and was just like, "Get me out of here." But that's live
mad.
music. It's raw.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the power.
Yeah, I think if you could find an artist to like craft that story into like some kind of cool piece of art, that could be an album cover or something. I think it's like a bit of ADORER lore.
We've actually had
in
that idea.
Really?
We've had that idea. I'm pretty
There you
sure
go.
Otis had that idea when I told him. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Between that and the,
Wow,
the
dope.
sock pop shields, I think we're onto something here.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned at the top, you dropped your self-titled debut EP in early May, which I think is made even more impressive now, knowing that you hadn't known each other like 8-9 months prior to that. That EP, sorry, is now a couple of months old. So how was the reaction initially, given that you guys were such a fresh band? Obviously weren't on everyone's radar just yet. And also, how are you reflecting on it a couple of months later?
Man, I don't think we knew what to expect at all. You know, we were kind of just dropping it almost out of nowhere, and we done our best to like drop singles and try and get some momentum and that sort of thing. But it all could have fell on deaf ears in a way, and it didn't. It connected really well with audiences in America. There's some the good thing about Shoegaze is that there are some kind of forums and groups of fans who are really into it, and they're like collectors of music within the scene, and those people were champions of the music, and there's people who've picked it up for like American radio shows, which has been awesome. So I think, personally speaking, the EP done way better than I, possibly anticipated that it would, and I think it's a solid start for the band. It's interesting that I think the sound has already evolved beyond that, and certainly the writing style and the quality of the songs and the craftsmanship. It's all come on. So we obviously love the EP and we love playing it, but we've already, in a way, sort of moved on, if that makes sense.
You've got a new app.
We haven't got a new album yet, no. We're trying.
We've written it ourselves. But we, as Chris was saying, like even before the EP was out, we had already moved a bit more forwards because we just gotten to know each other musically, I guess, better, which naturally happens. So like even the song we're gonna put out soon, I think it already been written before the EP was out. We had it like
it was done.
Pretty much done, because we'd even played it at the Unkind single release show, the song we're going to be releasing soon. So yeah, we'd already moved on a bit, and that song is a bit more complex than I guess anything on the EP besides the instrumental, which is pretty complex, a lot of parts in that one. But yeah, songs like Burial and Silk, we've sort of moved on from that sort of style, I guess, a bit. Just like having everything sort of dynamically a bit sort of flat, because I guess it was distorted guitars the whole time, not sort of much movement dynamically. We've sort of started to clean the guitars out, have cleaner guitars a bit more. A few more just quieter moments these days with our songs.
And Chris, you sort of touched on it a bit before, but when you're playing the live shows, you said you still enjoy it, but do you find it harder to fall back into that, or to, because it feels like, you sort of touched on cleaner guitars and you're moving away from that, I guess, maybe a grungier sound that we've had prior. Is it harder to give it all on the stage when you're playing that, or is it still like, no, this is the song, you take you back to the moment, when you're recording it, when you wrote it, and that's what you enjoy?
I think when you play songs live, there's like a new life that is kind of given to the songs when you do it. It feels fresh and it feels new in that moment, and particularly the way an audience might react or might not react. You have a different experience of playing the song when you play it live, which I think we'll always appreciate. It's the rehearsals that are tough. You know, when we're just going through these songs that we've been playing for 18 months and we're hitting them again and again and again, and we're really keen to always be tight. So that's the hard part, I think. But playing the songs we love.
How much rehearsal time do you do before a show?
We're pretty consistent with just rehearsing once a week for 3 hours, and sometimes if a show or like something coming up is particularly important, we'll do 2 rehearsals, so maybe 6 hours. But yeah, we're just very consistent with the 3 hour thing, and for this upcoming show, we've sort of keeping to just the 3 hours a week. We don't have to do anything extra because we're feeling pretty confident that we've got the songs down. But yeah,
it's like we always have that weekly session together, and if there's upcoming shows, we use it as rehearsal time, and if there aren't any shows, we use it to write and tweak and perfect the song sort of thing.
Yeah, you got a 3 hour block in all of your calendars, so we're catching up, we're hanging out, we're either jamming, writing, rehearsing, whatever the case is, but we're always going to catch up for those 3 hours every week.
Exactly.
Yep.
You seem very organized, but as I said before, kind of assured as a band. And again, that's even more interesting to me knowing that you guys have only known each other as long as the band has existed, more or less. Is that a product, do you think, of your age? And not to say you're old, but you guys are musicians. You're not in your early 20s, I don't imagine. Is it a product of your learnings and wisdom that's come along the way, or is it something of a shock to you all that you were able to gel and organize and work and create so efficiently together in such a short space of time?
That's a good question. Part of it is that all 4 of us really love music, and that when we listen to music, I'm going to speak for myself, like you're always trying to measure what you're doing as a band against what you'd like. So I guess having a bit of discipline and sort of being focused, it's really pivotal to just try your best, always make sure the next thing is better than the last, and just really hone in on a particular sound. Because I guess music with so much traffic, you just got to pretty much just do the best you can, make sure everything's really good. Even like for us as well, the aesthetics of the covers, and we also have lyric videos on YouTube, and a really great video that our friend Tom did for our Unkind single, like always having like a visual look, making sure the songs are as best as possible is just important. It's part of the fun of being a musician, is trying to just outdo yourself and try to make something that you're excited about, because I guess we all love music. And even if you didn't know, Otis and I actually went to high school together, so we also learned to like play together. When we played in like a instrumental band in high school, and then another band after high school, and then did some other stuff, and then didn't see each other for like all of COVID. So I actually bumped into him randomly because we hadn't seen each other, and then I was like, "Oh, we need a drummer, so can you drum for us?" And it was like the old days where we just grinded, playing so much music together. And I guess that's also another sort of secret ingredient, is that Otis and I have been playing together for a while, so that's probably why it feels assured, and we've always had like the same sort of tastes in music. And then we just got lucky with Kris and Henry as well, having the same tastes and being on the same page musically. But but to get there has been graft for sure. Like it hasn't been sort of easy. There was a time when, before Otis and Henry joined, where we were a bit lost in the post-rock sort of thing, a bit more. Like it was a bit more of that sparkly guitar, explosions in the sky sound, which and there was a period where we were a bit lost on where we were going, but then we somehow figured it out and got to with this more shoegazy alt rock sound.
It's funny that you mentioned the kind of confidence or the assuredness of the band, which is weird because I don't feel either of those things particularly about it. Like it's great that the songs are connecting, and we're generating some interest, and that definitely gives certainly me some confidence. But I'm sort of in a new position in the band, and I joined the band as a guitarist, or joined up with Liam as a guitarist. Was never supposed to kind of be a singer or a songwriter within the band. That wasn't my role, and just because of the difficulties that we had in recruiting the right people, we kind of got to a point where we had these bunch of songs that were 90% written, and we just like, someone's got to do it. Who's the least worst singer, sort of thing. So I kind of started doing that. So singing is like brand new, essentially, other than for like doing a few acoustic things when I was a young kid and had all the confidence. So I've been growing into that role slowly, and yeah, without confidence, I think.
And then how are you going back to your live set? How are you then on stage in front of people when singing's still quite new to you?
Shitting myself most of the time. But like the band are so tight. We rehearse so much. The scene or the genre shoegaze, people aren't expecting us to be doing dance moves and moving around and, you know, being particularly animated. So I can just kind of stand there and do it and zone in. So I kind of get there. I usually start to enjoy it by the end of the set when it's over. When I start to warm up and get more comfortable, but that'll change in time, I'm sure.
I literally gaze at my shoes when we're on stage. Like, I'm like, oh, we're a shoegaze band. And I'm like, literally shoegazing.
It's in the name.
Yeah. I was like, I gotta stop doing this. It's too obvious.
You're adoring your shoegazing.
There
That's
you
all.
go. You got it.
Yeah. God,
There it is. And if we can look ahead to what's coming up, you kind of teased it before, what you've been working on. Speaking to Kris via message, or maybe it was you, Liam. I'm not sure who. Kris, I've been texting Liam. I think we'll message you on Instagram. I'm not sure who was in control. Either way, you've got a single in the works that may be ready in the month. So not to preempt it, if you guys want to share something about that, if it is ready.
For sure. It's we're literally listening to variations of masters this evening. So it's there or thereabouts. The plan is to get it released before the 18th of July, which is the night that we play the Vanguard. Just to kind of generate a bit of buzz. It's nice to drop a new single, have a big show sort of thing. So we've got Veins probably a week on Thursday. What would that be? The 11th or 12th? I think it'll be released.
Fantastic.
And
we've got that to look forward to. And then you also preempted the other thing I was going to ask about, was that show at the Vanguard. That is your next show, July 18th at the Vanguard in Newtown. What can people expect from that if they are looking at purchasing themselves a ticket, as I am?
Oh, brilliant. You don't have to purchase a ticket because you've had us on the show. We can give you a ticket.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd still like to support bands, but we'll
you can
see.
expect to see 4 middle-aged blokes staring at the shoes in the main. That's not fair, actually. Henry's a young man. But no, we'll...
you've changed the definition of middle-aged there.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, yeah. We'll be playing, I think, everything from the EP, plus the new stuff. We're getting a little bit creative around some of the older songs, and we're going to try and play them in sort of different ways, which keeps it interesting.
I was going to ask about that. When you're saying you're sort of going more cleaner than your older grungier stuff, whether you were tweaking some more cleaner guitars in the older songs or whether it was trying to keep it as close to the original as possible. So that's interesting that you just mentioned that.
Yeah, so without giving too much away, we're playing around with that, yeah.
Yeah, it's just to make...
I hope I haven't said too much.
Yeah, it's just to make the songs more dynamic, and also, I guess maybe... Cleaner isn't one of the only ways we've like changed up our sound or like evolved our sound. It is also like adding, I guess, the classic shoegaze thing of adding few more guitar pedals. Just like the guitars are a bit more watery in the song we're going to be releasing soon. Like it still rocks, it still has like that rocky element, but it's a lot more dynamic and just has longer sections of cleaner guitar sounds. But yeah, I don't want to make us sound like we've gone the full acoustic guitars and
yeah, we've gone soft.
Gone a more folky route. Yeah, we've gone soft. We're still hard.
ADORER Country Edition coming to you
that's
July
like album
18.
4 or 5. I think we're working towards that.
Gone soft in the old age. I'd like to apologise for the old age comment as well. We're as I'm looking at this Zoom call, we're just 4 guys with beards that if we all shaved, we'd look a lot 10 years younger.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. That's why I don't shave.
That's right. Never get asked for ID. Well, we have that to look forward to. July 18, Vanguard in Newtown, and a new single to boot. It's all coming up. ADORER, Kris, Liam, thank you so much for coming on to Homebrew. I'm so glad we've got to chat. It's been very, very interesting to hear about how you formed as a band, and it makes it all the more exciting to see and hear what you've got in the works. So we'll be tracking that. And anyone else who wants to go and gaze at your shoes in front of some really, really good music, get down to the Vanguard in Newtown, July 18, and I'll see you there.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
This episode of Homebrewed was produced by my good friend Eamonn Snow, with maybe a little helping hand from me. This episode was recorded at Sonora Studios in Tuggerah, and we record on Darkingjung country. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. For anything you might want to hear more of on Homebrewed, head to www.homebrewed.au. And until next time, enjoy music.